Hello everyone. In this session, I'll be discussing about grain size classification given by Indian Standard. We'll look into that. Here, a lot of writing has been done. I will expose you to what are the general nomenclatures that are being used in soil mechanics. Okay. Here we'll start. Broadly, the soil is classified as in very flat two parts, that is coarse grained soils and then fine grained soils. Any soil if you take, it will be classified into coarse grained soils and then fine grained soils. So what is meant by coarse grained soil and what is meant by fine grained soils, we'll look into that. Now, fine means smaller size, coarse means bigger size. Now, what is the size which is used as a reference size? Now, that you should remember, that is 75 microns. The important size of reference of soil particles would be 75 microns, or it is 0.075 mm. This is what is to be remembered as far as size of the particles is concerned. Now, how to classify which soil is coarse grained soil and then which soil is fine grained soils? Okay. Now, for example, take a soil sample of some mass. Let us say it is around 10 kg we have taken, right? And then you have to sieve it through 75 micron sieve. So, what is the size that has to be used? As I have told you, here I have mentioned 75 microns. So take that sieve, put all the soil into this and then sieve it. Now after sieving for a good amount of time, assuming that no particles which is bigger than 75 microns is retained above, till that you have to sieve it. A part of the soil which gets through and then part of the soil which is retained above. The soil, let us say out of 10 kg, 3 kg is retained above, and then let's say around 7 kg has passed through. The soil which is passed through is over here. The soil which is retained is above there. So here A1 consists of, A1 is upper part. A1 consists of particles which are greater than 75 microns, and it is referred to as coarse fraction. I have indicated here that this is coarse fraction. The particles of soil, you can just see here, bigger than, particles of soil which are bigger than 75 microns are coarse particles, or it is called coarse fraction. Now how much is the coarse fraction? We can say that it is 3 kg. 3 kg is the coarse fraction of 10 kg, right? And then what is the fine fraction or fine part? Fine part is 7 kg. So what we have done is we have taken 10 kg, sieved it through 75 microns. The retained above is 3 kg, I'm telling you for a example, and then that which is passed through is 7 kg. Now next we'll go. A2 consists of particles which is less than 75 microns and it is referred to as fine fraction. Now here comparing the two fractions, comparing coarse fraction, comparing uh, fine fraction, more than 50% of the soil is below, that is fine fraction. As fine grained soil or fine grained fraction is more than coarse grained fraction, the soil A, that is whole soil, soil A is classified as fine grained soils. Had it been more than 50% of the particles are coarse fraction, then the whole soil would have been classified as uh, coarse grained soil. So note that the part retained or passed through is not classified. Means we are not naming that soil as a coarse soil. This part as fine soil. No, it is a fine part of the soil. This is coarse part of the soil. This soil is classified. So this soil is classified. That is what is to be remembered. So this is fine fraction, coarse fraction, mix is classified. That is what is to be remembered. The mixture of both fine grained and coarse grained particles is known as soil. In coarse grained particle, gravitational forces, that is weight, is more predominant, whereas in fine grained particles the surface forces are more predominant. Obviously when the particle size becomes, it will not be having much of weight, or gravitational force becomes not an important thing, but surface area becomes more. Because of that, it will be having surface forces more predominant in fine fraction, and in coarse fraction obviously the weight is larger. Because of that, gravitational force is much more. We'll go to the next slide. So here already we have seen this these pictures. So this is gravel. Obviously the size of particle is bigger, mass is more, weight is large, even in sand also. But when it becomes to silt, and then especially when it becomes sand, I mean clay, the particles are quite small. Because of that, here the surface forces are more, and here gravitational forces are more. Now, there is a Indian standard classification as far as grain size is concerned. There is a specific naming. Now, this chart will give you whole idea about what are the names, and then what are the sizes, and even what are the symbols. This classification helps in knowing nomenclature used in recognizing the soil. The soil is generally a mixture of gravel, sand, silt, and clay. Everything is there. Everything will be there. You cannot have only gravel or only sand or only silt. The natural existence of the soil is a good mixture of everything. Right? Now, part of the soil which is less than 0.075 mm is referred to as fines or fine fraction. The components of soil are gravel, sand, silt, clay particles. Right? Now, in earlier case, I have told you 10 kg of soil is sieved through 0.075 mm sieve, and 7 kg is retained. Let us say it is retained above. So, it is a coarse grained soil. Of the 7 kg, means now already it is said that it is a coarse fraction is predominant. Because of that, the whole soil is referred to as coarse grained soil. Now of that 7 kg, if more than 50% is sand particles. Now what are the sand particles? We'll see here. If more than 50% of the soil is sand particles, then the whole soil is classified as sand. Now what is sand? We'll see here. Anyway, this we should remember. The reference size, major reference size, I told you it is 0.075. So 0.075 below up to 0.002 mm, 0.075 mm to 0.075, whatever particles are there, these particles are referred to as silt size particles. And then to represent silt size particles, we have a notation or a symbol M. And then from 0.075 up to 4.75 mm, the particles are referred to as sand. So sand size particles. 4.75, it is say it is 5 mm, means half a centimeter particles, and lesser than that up to 0.075 mm. It is 1/10 of an mm, you can say it. 1 mm you can imagine. 1/10 of a, very small, even lesser than that, actually 0.075 mm. Right? So the particles above 0.075 and below 4.75 are referred to as sand. The particles above 4.75 and below 80 are referred to as gravel size particles, and the symbol for that is Z. From 80 to 300 we call it as cobbles. Above 300, 300 is 30 centimeter, about 1 foot length. So if the rock size, we can call it the boulder, right? Boulders are bigger particles which are having a size more than 30 centimeter, and from 30 to 8 centimeter, what cobbles 8 centimeter down up to 4.75 is gravel, and so on. So here, coming back to this level, if we have classified the soil as coarse grained soil, and then of the coarse fraction, that is 7 kg, if more than 50% is sand, then the whole soil will be classified as sand. Of the coarse grained fraction, if more is gravel, then the size particles, gravel size particles, so then the soil is classified as gravel. So more the percentage of gravel, it is gravel. More the percentage of sand, then it is sand. So coarse, I mean sand, or it is gravel. That is how we can classify. We'll go to the next slide. So important things to be remembered are 75 microns is the size of reference to classify the fine grained or coarse grained particles or coarse grained soil, so to say. Note, classification is not for the particles retained on the sieve or which have been passed through. No, the classification is for the whole soil, means it is a mixture of soil which will be classified. That is what is the thing to be remembered. Okay, here on grain size classification we have seen the boulders are particles more than 300 mm, cobbles are 80 to 300. But gravel, we have seen that it is 4.75 mm to 80 mm. Now there is a too much of a range. Because of that, we have got two parts there: the gravel which is coarser, the gravel which is finer. So from 4.75 up to 20 mm, 2 centimeter. So half a centimeter to 2 centimeter, or 4.75 mm to 20 mm. That fraction, that part is referred to as fine gravel. And from 20 mm up to 80 mm, this particular part or particles are referred to as coarse fraction or coarse gravel. Now similar to gravel, sand has also a good range, like 0.075 mm to 4.75 mm. Quite good range of size is there. Now to recognize whether the sand is coarse sand or medium sand or fine sand, we have got different size ranges, like 0.075 mm to 0.425 mm. 0.075 mm to 0.425 mm is a fine sand. Again, 0.425 mm to 2 mm, it is a medium sand. And from 2 mm to 4.75, it is coarse sand. The mixture is, whole thing is a sand. But if you have more particles of this size, then we call it as coarse. More particles of this size, that is medium. More particles of this size, then it is fine. Now last, just a highlights of everything. Gravels are particles of size greater than 4.75 mm. Coarse and coarse sand size range is 4.75 to 2 mm. Medium sand size range is 2 mm to 425 microns or 4.425 mm. Fine sand is 425 microns to 75 microns. Same thing is told as 0.075 mm to 0.425 mm. Because it is a 0 point something, microns would be better units to measure or tell. 425 microns to 2 microns, or 2 microns to 425 microns is medium, and fine sand is 425 microns to 75 microns, and below 75 microns you have got silt and clay. silt and clay are particles smaller than 75 microns and are referred to as fines. Okay, thank you.